everybody, and thank you so much for being with me and being live. I'm Des Caminos, and I want to know, have you ever known someone who was incredibly empathetic, who was creative, who was extremely resilient, but maybe they really struggled with processing their emotions? I ask because those are three really great qualities and strengths of people who have borderline personality disorder, also known as BPD. People with BPD are incredibly empathetic. Because of the difficulties that they have with processing their emotions, they tend to be extremely empathetic and understanding of the people around them and the emotions that they're experiencing. They also tend to be really creative. We have extremely vivid imaginations, which is why people with BPD can be really great at times at feeling like they're creating a reality that might be apart or different from the one that we're in. That was a really big thing for myself. And resilient. People with borderline personality disorder tend to be extremely resilient. Unfortunately, that resilience comes out of obligation and not always from a place of choice. I share these qualities with you because when you hear of borderline personality disorder, what do you think of? Maybe you think of, what? What's BPD? What's borderline personality disorder? Is it bipolar? And no, it's not. But it's okay if you don't know. I had never heard of borderline personality disorder until I was diagnosed in 2014. There is so much stigma around it. But today I am here to kick off a 7-day live series that I'm starting to raise awareness to borderline personality disorder while sharing some empowering tools. And the beautiful thing is, whether you struggle with borderline personality disorder or not, the 7-day series is going to be extremely impactful and powerful for you. Because the thing is, so many of the symptoms of people with borderline personality disorder are relatable to everyone, such as a distorted sense of self. I mean, have you ever just been really confused as to who you are? Fear of abandonment is another really big core symptom of people with BPD. And if you can resonate with that, know that you are not alone. A distorted sense of self, fear of abandonment, difficult time processing emotions, explosive anger, maybe self-destructive behaviors. All of these are symptoms of borderline personality disorder. And I want to raise awareness because the truth is these numbers are on the rise. It's estimated that 1.6% of Americans have been diagnosed with BPD. And I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but the truth is that's over 5 million Americans. And experts believe that the number is closer to 6%. So for today's day one of the live series that I'm starting, it's called BPD Unmasked. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be revealing the truth about borderline personality while busting some myths. So, yep, go ahead, call me a professional myth buster if you want. But that being said, I invite you to take a big breath. Hi, Teresa. It's so nice to see you. And let's go ahead and dive in. The reason that I'm starting this series with unmasking BPD and really breaking some myths is because there's so much stigma around it. And I want you to think about that. There's so much stigma around borderline personality disorder. There's so much stigma around mental health. There's so much stigma around being a woman. There's so much stigma around being a man. There's so much stigma and judgment around everything in the world. We live in a loud world where everyone seems to have an opinion on everything. Everyone is judging everything, and I get it. It's part of the brain to compartmentalize. It's part of us finding that sense of safety that is trying to organize and put things in little tight boxes, because when we know where it belongs, it becomes predictable. And when it's predictable, it's safe, and that's going to calm the nervous system. But how does it feel for you? How do you feel when you're being judged? How do you feel when there's stigma around something that you're doing or something that you are? How does it make you feel? Probably not so great, I would imagine, because again, that's also part of the human nervous system. When we go into a place of feeling judged, we don't feel safe. Our survival instincts get kicked off and we get triggered, and our brain starts to release all those stress chemicals, and that's a whole nother topic. But it's important to really take a breath. I know that we live in a world of judgment. I know that we live in a loud world, and that loud world is going to fuel our loud mind. But that's why to kick off this series, I really want to break some of these myths. Because it's in that place of breaking myths and breaking down judgment that we can really find a world of safety and inclusivity. And when we're feeling safe and inclusive, then we can really start to bring in compassion and understanding and greater awareness and emotional intelligence as well. So think about it. How would you feel if all of those maybe judgments or stigmas that might be around you or in your community, how would you feel if everyone knew the truth? You know, I've got tattoos, a little different than mental health, but there's still a lot of stigma around that. Sometimes I get a little nervous, like showing them, my showing at family parties. There's some stigma around that, what that story means. Maybe you wear certain colors and there's certain stories with that. I'm here to break some of these myths. So, everybody, take a big breath because it's time to bust myths of BPD. This is really important to me because I struggled with these myths. I was diagnosed in 2014. And in 2014, I remember my doctor reading off the symptoms of intense fears of abandonment, explosive anger, difficult time regulating emotions, distorted sense of self, self-destructive behaviors, the list goes on. And I felt so seen and so understood. I remember sitting in this comfy little green seat as he read off my diagnosis, and my first thought was, I knew I wasn't crazy. And then, of course, I thought, what's BPD? As my doctor made me feel safe and seen, I felt so activated and inspired. I felt like I could take on the world. And then when I got to my car, my therapist had told me to not Google borderline personality disorder because of all the stigma and judgment out there. But of course, I got to my Subaru, turned it on, felt the AC hit my face, and I felt so alive and felt so awake. And of course, I immediately grabbed my phone and Googled BPD. Have you ever done that before? Done something that you know you probably shouldn't do, but you can't help but do it, so you do it? Yeah, that was me. And I realized in that moment why I shouldn't do it. I learned that people with BPD were erratic, that they were psychotic, that they were extremely manipulative, that there was no effective treatment. That initial flicker of hope that I had, that candle that was burning me up with excitement, quickly went out. I felt so hopeless. I felt despair. I stopped going to therapy after that because honestly, I thought, what's the point? If there's no effective treatment and I'm crazy and manic and erratic and all of these things, then what's the point? It took me a really long time to come back to my healing journey. Years of abandoning myself, years of toxic relationships, years of a lot of other self destructive thought processes, mindsets, and behavioral patterns. But if there wasn't that stigma, if I would have Googled borderline personality disorder and found a story of hope, found the positives of BPD, saw the truth around this disorder, how different would my life have been? I don't know. I want to share this story with you because I want you to know how important it is to have that feeling sense of community, to know that there are other people like you in the world who are able to live a life beyond the diagnosis, who are able to overcome emotional dysregulation, distorted sense of self, and come out on the other side and live a life that they love. It's estimated that 10% of people who are diagnosed with borderline personality disorder will die by suicide. Those numbers are extremely high. And again, experts believe that those numbers are higher. I'm here to be a part of the movement that is making mental health safe, breaking down the stigma, and fostering healing and resilience in a place of safety without judgment. People with BPD are more than numbers. We're more than 1.6% of Americans. We're more than the 10% that die by suicide. And so thank you so much for being with me in this series as we raise awareness, because it's time for a change. It's time to shift the perspective and to shift the narrative. Because if any of you are watching and you do have BPD, even though BPD might be a part of your story, it doesn't have to be the ending, and it doesn't have to be your full book. You are so much more than your diagnosis. And for those of you who are watching who aren't diagnosed with BPD, you're so much more than whatever label you've been given to. You're so much more than a woman or a husband or a teacher or a mom or a dad or a colleague. You're more than one thing. You're multifaceted. So thank you so much. I'm so excited to share with you now 3 really big myths around BPD, and I'm gonna bust each one of them. The first myth that I really want to share with you is that people with borderline personality disorder are manipulative. If any of you have heard that, go ahead and just rub your heart center and give some sparkle fingers to everybody in the air who has ever been told that they're manipulative. I've been told that I have been manipulative before my diagnosis, during my diagnosis, and after my diagnosis. That word manipulation is something that can be a really big trigger for a lot of people. And the myth that everyone who has BPD is manipulative is just that. It's a myth. I know that it can feel sometimes that people with BPD are engaging in these self-destructive behaviors. So maybe they're self-sabotaging, in that place of self-sabotaging, having their underlying feelings or intentions not understood. If you've ever had that, take a moment and just know that you're not alone. Have you ever had an intention? Maybe you've tried to do something, tried to say something, tried to help someone, but it wasn't the perception. Maybe you intended to help your mom, by taking out the trash, but you took the trash out in the wrong way, and then your mom got upset. Maybe you tried to give someone some support, but it wasn't the support that they needed, so they shut you down. They got defensive or they attacked you. We live in a world of perception where the people around us are taking in the information of the world. And so, even though our intention might be genuine and honest and clear and everything that we hold to be true to ourselves, sometimes there's going to be a disconnect in how it's perceived. It's not to say that it's right or wrong, because we're not going to put labels on anything, because with labels come judgment. And remember, there's no judgment in healing. People with BPD are not manipulative. The thing is, people with BPD do suffer from emotional dysregulation. They have a difficult time processing their emotions. And in that place of processing, it can be really difficult to give clear intentions of the emotions that we're experiencing. Just like if you're really, really angry at somebody and you're feeling rage, it can be really difficult for you to express your feeling, to express that anger in a way that's aligned or authentic or healthy for you, because you've been kind of full of that emotion. That emotion might feel like it's taking over the driver's seat. That emotional dysregulation is one of the core symptoms of borderline personality disorder, which is why there might be this myth that people with BPD are manipulative, but they're just struggling with their emotional regulation, and the intention is not always going to be matched with the perception. It's in that place of processing the emotions and the emotional dysregulation that they're having that they might engage in maladaptive behaviors. And even though they're engaging in maladaptive behaviors, more often than not, it is not intentional. Just like when you might lash out at a family friend or someone that you love because you're feeling full, you're stressed or whatever, it's going to be really similar for people with borderline personality disorder. They might engage in maladaptive behaviors because they're processing their intense emotions at that time. So, myth number 1, debunked, debusted, and desed. And so that's the first myth. The reality is people with borderline personality do have a really difficult time processing their emotions when they haven't received the effective treatment. And so it's in that place of not having the effective treatment that they're just feeling sensitive. They're really easily triggered oftentimes, and when that place of trigger, it's going to be difficult to process. So that is the reality. The second myth that I want to debust is that people with borderline personality disorder are attention seeking. This was something that really, really hurt me when I was looking up borderline personality disorder. Yes, it really sucked to hear that I was manipulative and erratic and psychotic, but a really big thing was that I was attention seeking. As if me and my emotional dysregulation, me and my ways of asking for help were received as attention seeking. And so, for those of you who haven't been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, I ask if you've ever been called attention seeking. If maybe you've just been having a really difficult time processing some emotion, maybe you're really sad, maybe you've gotten really upset, maybe you're feeling triggered, you want to have a conversation about something that maybe somebody else doesn't, or whatever is going on, and you've been name called. You're just looking for attention. Stop being dramatic. If that resonates, I'm so sorry, because everything you think and feel is for a reason. People with BPD are not attention seeking, but again, they have a difficult time processing their emotions because of the emotional dysregulation that they experience. And because we don't have those healthy ways of processing our emotions, of communicating our wants, needs, and desires, it's going to come off, it's going to be perceived in a multi variety of ways. People with BPD, if you feel that they are attention seeking, more often than not, they're probably asking for support in some way. But we haven't been taught how to ask for support. Just as a society, we haven't been taught how to ask for support. Think about it. I mean, let me know. Drop in the chat. How do you feel asking for help? Do you feel safe and excited? Like, oh, I can't wait to ask for help? Or do you get a little scared? Do you get a little triggered? Does the idea of asking for help make you feel like you're going to be weak, that you're going to be viewed as vulnerable, that you're going to be taken advantage of? Whatever it is, I'm sorry. And just know that you're not alone. We as a society aren't taught how to ask for help, and we aren't taught how to ask for support. As a result, we can carry a lot of wounds and a lot of trauma around that, which can be extremely difficult for people who do have borderline personality disorder because of the overwhelming emotions that they experience. If they don't know how to process it, let alone communicate when they need help or support, it might come off in, again, some maladaptive behaviors. So people with BPD are not attention seeking always. So, number 2 myth busted. Busted and desed. The reality is, the truth is, we don't live in a society that's teaching people how to ask for support and how to ask for help. And really also how to process emotions. As a result, combining that with someone who experiences borderline personality disorder is going to come out into maladaptive behaviors. The third myth that I want to bust, which is the most important. The most important, because although the attention seeking myth really hurt my feelings and made me feel sad and heavy and just gross, the one that really stopped me from my pursuing of therapy for years was reading that there was no effective treatment. People with BPD have no effective treatment. False. That is not true. It can be really difficult to find an effective treatment that works for you, whether you have BPD or not. Raise your hand if you've ever gone to a therapist or talk therapy before and been like, oh, I did not like that experience. It's okay. It's normal. When it comes to healing, we want to make sure that we find somebody who resonates with us, who aligns with us, and who makes us feel safe. Finding effective treatment to overcome any sort of trauma is going to be really difficult. And people with borderline personality disorder, more often than not, have experienced some level of trauma. Because of the sensitivity and the overwhelming emotions and intense experiences that people with BPD have, it can be really difficult to, one, even get diagnosed. BPD is an extremely difficult diagnosis to get because of the way in which it borders so many other personality or other mental health things like anxiety or depression. So BPD alone is already difficult to diagnose, and it can be really difficult to find an effective treatment because, one, it's difficult for anybody to find effective treatment to anything, whether it's anxiety, depression, trauma. And two, because there's so many different combinations of therapy that can offer effective treatment. When it comes to finding effective treatment, whether you have BPD or you do have BPD, it's not one size fits all. For myself, I went to intensive dialectical behavioral therapy. I also combined that with somatic therapy, with Reiki, with inner child work, and with trauma work. So, yeah, I had an effective treatment, but for me, it took a multifaceted approach on different modalities. It's going to take time. I wish that I could say that you could click your fingers and it would be over, but actually, I don't wish that. Healing is not linear, healing's a journey. And each step in that process can be heavy, but it doesn't have to be. Healing can be fun and exploratory and safe, but you have to find someone who's aligned, and you have to find a treatment that's effective for you. And the truth is, it might not just be one treatment that's effective. You might need a multifaceted approach like I did, and that's okay too. So when it comes to there being no effective treatment for borderline personality disorder, I want you to know that that is a myth. that is not true. If I can overcome the symptoms of my BPD and live a life beyond the diagnosis, I know that you can as well. And for those of you who are interested in more of my story and my challenges, reach out to me. I'd love to share my story with you. Again, to share hope and to break some of these myths. Because if I would have seen that there was hope, that there was treatment, I probably would have started a lot sooner. But I kept postponing it because I thought, what's the point? It's not going to work for me. I'm too broken. So if that sentence resonates, take a big, beautiful breath in and know that you're not alone. I'm here for you always. I've got your back. So, just to recap the 3 myths that are myths and not facts. 1, people with borderline personality disorder are manipulative. Fact. The truth is, people with borderline personality disorder tend to have maladaptive behaviors because of the emotional dysregulation that they experience. The second myth, not fact, is that people with BPD are attention seeking. Again, because we don't live in a society that has taught us how to ask for help or support, it can be really difficult for people to ask for help or support whether you have BPD or not. Coupled with the emotional dysregulation and intense fears of abandonment and other triggers that can come with being borderline, it can be really difficult to ask for help. But again, people with BPD are not always attention seeking. The third myth is that there is no effective treatment for BPD. Myth. The truth is, there are a variety of treatments that can be extremely effective, but it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. It's whichever one resonates and aligns for you. If any of you would like more support around this, know that I'm here. I invite you to let me know what was been your biggest takeaway, what was been the biggest biggest myth that was busted for you today. Let me know. Also, if you're new to borderline personality disorder, let me know what you think. Let me know how these symptoms of maybe being name called as attention seeking or having a difficult time finding support, how does it relate to your life? Because even though you might not have borderline personality disorder, so many of the symptoms or causes that we experience as people with BPD are things that we can all relate to. I've been without symptoms of borderline personality disorder for over 5 years, and I've been off medication for 6. There is effective treatment. It is a journey, but it's one that you deserve. If any of you would like more support around this, I invite you to join me next week, Monday, May 1st, for Borderline Personality Disorder Awareness Day. I'm going to be leading my most raw and vulnerable event yet called Beyond the Diagnosis. I'm going to share 3 keys to find safety, stability, and fulfillment. Because the truth is, we all deserve to live a life that we love, where we feel safe and aligned. If you've got any questions, I'm Des, and I've got your back always. And I can totally see Teresa saying this with me right now, but we are all in this together. If you've got questions, know that I'm here for you. There's going to be a link in the bio for my May 1st event. And just know that together we radiate, together we rise.